Earth's ignored prototype warship just obliterated the Empire's Armada. Part 1. The Forgotten Beast. Captain Jake Morrison stared at the holographic display with a mixture of disgust and bitter amusement. 27 years he had been stuck aboard the USS Vengeance, humanity's so-called prototype warship that nobody wanted to remember existed. 27 years of floating in the void between star systems, forgotten by Earth Command, ignored by politicians, and dismissed by every military analyst who had ever laid eyes on their ship's specifications. Captain, Lieutenant Sarah Chun called from her tactical station, her voice carrying that familiar edge of sarcasm that had kept their small crew sane through decades of isolation. We're receiving another priority transmission from Admiral Brooks on Luna Station. Something about immediate reassignment to agricultural survey duty. Jake let out a harsh laugh that echoed through the bridge. Agricultural survey? Really? Tell me. Chin, what exactly does a good admiral think we've been doing out here for the past 3 decades? Growing space potatoes. The bridge crew exchanged knowing glances. There were only 12 of them left now, the sole survivors of what had once been humanity's most ambitious military project. The USS Vengeance had been designed as Earth's answer to the growing threat of the Zephyrian Empire, but when the politicians decided diplomacy was cheaper than warfare, their ship became an embarrassment. Too expensive to scrap, too dangerous to bring home, too controversial to acknowledge. Sir, Communications Officer Tom Bradley spoke up, his fingers dancing across his console. I'm detecting massive energy signatures at the edge of the Centauri system. Multiple contacts, moving in formation. Jake's expression shifted from bitter amusement to sharp focus. How many? Counting? Jesus. 47 capital ships, sir. Zephyrian design. They're heading straight for Earth. The bridge fell silent, except for the gentle hum of life support systems. After 3 decades of peace talks, trade negotiations, and diplomatic pleasantries, the Zephyrian Empire had finally made their move. Jake felt a cold smile spread across his weathered face. Well, he murmured, his voice carrying the weight of 27 years of accumulated rage. Looks like our alien friends decided to crash the party after all. Lieutenant Commander Alex Rodriguez, their chief engineer, looked up from his station with concern etched across his features. Captain, Earth Command needs to be warned. The home fleet isn't designed for this kind of assault. Jake's laugh was darker this time, filled with the kind of satisfaction that comes from being proven right after decades of being called paranoid. Oh, Rodriguez, you sweet, naive fool. Earth Command already knows. They've known for months. Why do you think they've been trying so hard to reassign us to the ass end of nowhere? The realization hit the crew like a physical blow. Sarah Chen's face went pale. They're sacrificing the outer colonies to buy time. Bingo, Jake said, his voice dripping with venom. And they figured if we were conveniently lost somewhere in deep space, there'd be no awkward questions about why Earth's most advanced warship wasn't available to defend humanity. Tom Bradley's console erupted in urgent chimes. Captain, we're receiving a fleet-wide emergency broadcast from Earth Command. Admiral Brooks is ordering all available ships to fall back to Luna Station for strategic repositioning. Strategic repositioning, Jake repeated, tasting the words like poison. That's military speak for abandon everything and run like hell. How very brave of them. The tactical display updated, showing the Zephyrian fleet's trajectory with painful clarity. They would hit the Proxima colony first, then move on to the mining stations at Wolf 359, and finally arrive at Earth's doorstep in roughly 72 hours. The human colonies didn't stand a chance. Sir, Saracen said quietly, orders? Jake stood up from his command chair, feeling the weight of command settle on his shoulders like an old, familiar coat. He had trained for this moment for 30 years, had dreamed of it through countless sleepless nights, had planned for it while Earth Command dismissed him as a relic of a more paranoid age. Rodriguez, he called out, his voice carrying across the bridge with newfound authority. How long to bring all primary systems online? The chief engineer grinned, the expression transforming his face from worried technician to eager predator. Captain, I never shut them down. We've been running at full combat readiness for 27 years. Of course you have, Jake said with genuine affection. Tom, send a message to Admiral Brooks. Tell him Captain Morrison sends his regards, and that the USS Vengeance will be unable to comply with retreat orders due to technical difficulties. Technical difficulties, sir? Yeah. Jake's smile was sharp enough to cut steel. We seem to have accidentally stumbled into the middle of an alien invasion fleet. Funny how these things happen. The crew erupted in nervous laughter, the sound carrying a hint of hysteria. They all knew what this meant. 12 humans against 47 alien capital ships. It should have been suicide. It would have been suicide if they had been aboard any other vessel in the human fleet. But the USS Vengeance wasn't just any other vessel. Chun, Jake continued, his voice taking on the cadence of a man who had waited his entire career for this moment. Bring all weapon systems online. I want every particle cannon charged, every missile tube loaded, and every shield generator running at maximum output. Aye, sir. All weapons showing green. Shields at full power. Rodriguez, how's our power core? Purring like a contented cat, Captain. All 3 zero-point energy generators are stable and ready for combat operations. Jake nodded with satisfaction. The zero-point generators had been the USS Vengeance's most controversial feature, the technology that had made politicians nervous and accountants weep. Too expensive, they had said. Too dangerous. Too unpredictable for mass production. Too bad the Zephyrians didn't know that. Tom, open a channel to the Zephyrian fleet. Sir, are you sure that's wise? Probably not, Jake admitted cheerfully. Do it anyway? The main view screen flickered to life, revealing the angular features of a Zephyrian fleet commander. The alien's golden eyes widened slightly at the sight of the human vessel, clearly not expecting to encounter any resistance this far from Earth. I am Fleet Commander Zax of the Zephyrian 3rd Battle Group. The alien announced in heavily accented English. You will surrender your vessel immediately or be destroyed. Jake leaned back in his command chair, his expression one of exaggerated confusion. I'm sorry, Commander Zax, but I think there's been some kind of mistake. You see, according to my government, we don't exist. Hard to surrender a ship that was never built. Wouldn't you agree? The Zephyrian commander's face twisted in confusion. Explain. Oh, it's quite simple, really, Jake continued conversationally. Earth Command decided that building warships was too expensive, so they pretended we never happened, erased us from records, stopped sending supplies, generally treated us like an embarrassing relative at a family reunion. But here's the funny thing about being officially non-existent. Jake's expression suddenly turned predatory, all traces of humor vanishing from his features. It means nobody expects us to follow the rules. The transmission cut off, leaving the Zephyrian commander staring at static. Jake turned to his crew, seeing his own mixture of rage and anticipation reflected in their faces. Ladies and gentlemen, he announced, his voice carrying the weight of 3 decades accumulated fury. We've been forgotten, abandoned, and dismissed by our own people. Our government has written us off as a failed experiment. Our military has erased us from their records. Our politicians have denied our very existence. He paused, letting his words sink in. But the Zephyrians are about to learn something very important about humanity. We don't stay down. We don't give up. And we sure as hell don't forgive. Sarah Chun looked up from her tactical console, her eyes bright with savage anticipation. Sir, the enemy fleet is breaking formation. They're moving to engage. Perfect, Jake said, settling back into the command chair like a king claiming his throne. Rodriguez, transfer auxiliary power to weapons. Chun, lock onto the lead vessel. Tom, record this for posterity. I want Earth Command to know exactly what their failed experiment was capable of. The USS Vengeance began to move, its sleek form cutting through space like a blade. For 27 years, it had been a ghost ship, a forgotten prototype drifting in the void between stars. But now, as it accelerated toward the Zephyrian fleet, it became something else entirely. It became humanity's vengeance made manifest. Distance to target? Jake asked calmly. 50,000 kilometers and closing, Chin reported. Weapons range in 30 seconds, Rodriguez added. Jake smiled, the expression carrying 3 decades of bitter satisfaction. The aliens had made the classic mistake of underestimating humanity. They had assumed that a single human vessel would be easy prey, a minor inconvenience to be swatted aside on their way to conquering Earth. They were about to learn how very, very wrong they were. "All hands, this is the captain," Jake announced over the ship's communication system. "Today we show the galaxy what happens when you threaten humanity. Today we remind everyone why they were afraid of us in the first place. Today..." He paused, watching as the Zephyrian fleet came into weapon range. "Today we make them remember the USS Vengeance." The first salvo of alien plasma bolts streaked across space toward their position, a display of firepower that should have been overwhelming. Jake watched them approach with the detached interest of a man who had been waiting his entire career for this moment. "Shields holding," Chin reported. "Minor fluctuations in the forward array." "Return fire," Jake ordered quietly. The USS Vengeance spoke for the first time in 27 years, and its voice was thunder. Part 2, The Reckoning. The first Zephyrian battleship simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, a massive wedge of alien metal and ceramic armor bristling with weapon batteries. The next moment there was nothing but expanding gas and debris, as if the universe had decided the ship was a mistake and corrected it with extreme prejudice. "Holy hell," Tom Bradley whispered from his communication station, staring at the tactical display in disbelief. "Captain, the lead battleship just disappeared." Jake Morrison allowed himself a small, satisfied smile. "Not disappeared, Tom. Vaporized. There's a difference. One suggests magic, the other suggests superior firepower." The Zephyrian fleet hesitated, their perfect formation wavering as 46 remaining capital ships tried to process what they had just witnessed. Jake could almost see the confusion spreading through their ranks like a virus. "Sir," Sarah Chin called from tactical, her voice tight with excitement. "The enemy fleet is breaking formation. They're trying to surround us." "Of course they are," Jake replied, his tone conversational despite the fact that they were outnumbered 46-1. "Basic pack hunting tactics. Spread out. Divide our fire. Overwhelm us with numbers. It's actually quite sensible if you don't know what you're dealing with." Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez looked up from his engineering station, his face split by a feral grin. "Captain, all weapon systems are functioning perfectly. The zero-point generators are stable, and we got enough power to light up half the galaxy." "Excellent," Jake said, then activated the ship's internal communication system. "Attention crew of the USS Vengeance. For 27 years, we have been the unwanted stepchildren of Earth's military. We have been forgotten, ignored, and abandoned by the very people we swore to protect. But today, we remind the galaxy why humanity earned its reputation as the most dangerous species in known space." He paused, watching as the Zephyrian ships moved into attack positions. "Today, we show them that writing us off was the biggest mistake they ever made." The alien fleet opened fire simultaneously, 46 capital ships unleashing everything they had at the lone human vessel. Space lit up with plasma bolts, particle beams, and kinetic projectiles, a light show that would have been beautiful if it weren't so utterly lethal. The USS Vengeance's shields flared as the incoming fire struck, energy cascading across their protective barriers in brilliant displays of contained destruction. For a moment, the small human ship disappeared entirely behind a wall of enemy fire. Then it emerged completely unscathed, and Jake's laughter echoed across the bridge. "Is that it?" he called out to the alien fleet, knowing they could hear him on the open channel. 27 years of waiting, and that's the best you can do? I'm actually disappointed." Fleet Commander Zax's face appeared on the main view screen, his golden eyes wide with disbelief. "Impossible. No single ship could withstand that level of concentrated fire." "You're absolutely right," Jake agreed cheerfully. "No single ship could withstand that. Fortunately for us, the USS Vengeance isn't just any single ship. We're humanity's middle finger, extended in your general direction." Chen's fingers danced across her tactical console. "Sir, I have firing solutions on 12 targets. Recommend we engage the heavy cruisers first." "Negative," Jake said, his expression turning predatory. "Target their command ship. Time for a little psychological warfare. The USS Vengeance's main particle cannon swiveled toward Fleet Commander Zax's flagship, a massive dreadnought that served as the backbone of the Zephyrian formation. The weapon charged with sound like distant thunder, energy building to levels that shouldn't have been possible with conventional technology. "Commander Zax," Jake said politely, "I want you to understand something. Your government made a deal with our politicians to keep us out of any potential conflict. They promised Earth that you would never threaten human space if we agreed to keep our prototype warships locked away. Well, congratulations. You just voided that agreement." The particle cannon fired. The Zephyrian flagship lasted almost 3 seconds longer than the first battleship had, its superior shields and armor managing to absorb the initial impact before being overwhelmed by the sheer magnitude of the USS Vengeance's firepower. When the light faded, nothing remained but cooling wreckage in the shocked silence of the surviving alien crews. "Jesus Christ," Rodriguez breathed. "Captain, I know I built those weapons, but seeing them in action is something else entirely." Jake nodded grimly. "The politicians were right to be scared of us, Rodriguez. We're not just a warship. We're a force of nature with a grudge." The remaining Zephyrian ships began to retreat, their formation dissolving into chaos as individual captains made the entirely rational decision that survival was more important than military glory. But Jake wasn't about to let them go that easily. "Chun, plot an intercept course for the fleeing vessels. Tom, open a channel to Earth Command." "Sir, are you sure you want to contact them?" Tom asked hesitantly. "Oh, I'm absolutely sure," Jake replied, his smile sharp enough to cut diamond. "It's time for a little heart-to-heart with Admiral Brooks." The view screen flickered, revealing the familiar face of Admiral Brooks on Luna Station. The man looked like he had aged a decade in the past few hours, his face pale and drawn with stress. "Morrison," Brooks said carefully, "what's your status?" "Well, Admiral, let me see," Jake replied thoughtfully. "I've destroyed 2 Zephyrian capital ships, scattered their invasion fleet, and single-handedly prevented the conquest of human space." "Oh!" "And I did it all with a ship that officially doesn't exist, commanded by a crew that was written off as expendable. How's your day going?" Brooks' face went even paler. "Morrison, you need to understand. The political situation is complicated." "Complicated?" Jake's voice rose dangerously. "Admiral, let me explain something to you about complicated. Complicated is spending 27 years in deep space because your own government is too embarrassed to admit you exist. Complicated is watching alien invaders burn human colonies, while your superiors debate the political ramifications of mounting a defense. Complicated is discovering that your own people would rather see you die than risk acknowledging their mistakes." The Admiral opened his mouth to respond, but Jake cut him off. "I'm not finished," Jake snarled. "For 3 decades, you and your political masters have treated us like a dirty secret. You've denied our service, erased our records, and abandoned us to die in the void between stars. Well, congratulations, Admiral. You've created exactly what you were afraid of, a weapon with no loyalties except to itself." On the tactical display, the USS Vengeance closed in on the fleeing Zephyrian vessels. One by one, Jake's crew picked them off with methodical precision, each alien ship dying in brilliant flashes of released energy. "Morrison," Brooks said desperately, "what do you want?" Jake's smile was cold and utterly without mercy. "What do I want? I want recognition. I want acknowledgement. I want every human in the galaxy to know that when the aliens came to destroy us, it wasn't Earth Command that saved them. It was the crew of the USS Vengeance, the ship you tried so hard to forget. Another Zephyrian cruiser died, its hull cracking open like an egg as the USS Vengeance's weapons found their mark. I want apologies," Jake continued relentlessly. "I want explanations. I want the politicians who decided we were expendable to look into cameras and explain to the families of dead colonists why they thought diplomacy was more important than defense. The last of the Zephyrian fleet tried to make a desperate jump to hyperspace, but Chun was ready for them. The USS Vengeance's secondary battery spoke, and the final alien ship joined its companions in death. But most of all, Admiral," Jake said quietly, his voice carrying the weight of 3 decades of accumulated rage, "I want you to remember this moment. I want you to remember that when humanity needed protection, it wasn't your precious diplomats who provided it. It wasn't your carefully balanced political alliances that saved Earth from conquest. It was 12 people on a ship that you tried to pretend never existed. The tactical display showed empty space where the Zephyrian fleet had been. 47 capital ships reduced to debris and cooling gas in less than an hour. The invasion was over before it had truly begun. The USS Vengeance is returning to Earth, Jake announced. We'll be there in 72 hours. I suggest you have some very good explanations ready, because we're done being your dirty little secret. He cut the transmission, leaving Admiral Brooks staring at static. The bridge of the USS Vengeance fell silent, except for the gentle hum of life support and the satisfied breathing of its crew. Sir, Saracen said quietly, what happens now? Jake leaned back in his command chair, feeling the weight of the moment settle around him like a comfortable blanket. For 27 years, they had been outcasts, forgotten soldiers fighting a war that nobody wanted to acknowledge. But today, they had reminded the galaxy what humanity was capable of when pushed too far. Now, Chun, we go home, Jake said simply. We go home, and we make sure that nobody ever forgets the USS Vengeance again. The ship turned toward Earth, its mission complete and its crew vindicated. Behind them, the debris of the Zephyrian fleet drifted in the void, a monument to the folly of underestimating humanity's capacity for both forgiveness and vengeance. Captain, Tom Bradley called from the station, a note of amazement in his voice. We're receiving transmissions from across human space. News networks, military channels, civilian frequencies. Everyone's talking about us. Jake raised an eyebrow. What are they saying? Everything, sir. Some are calling us heroes. Others are demanding answers about why Earth Command kept us secret. The outer colonies are celebrating. Luna Station is in complete chaos. Sarah Chin looked up from her console with a wicked grin. Sir, we're also receiving a priority transmission from the Zephyrian High Council. They're requesting immediate peace negotiations. Jake's laughter filled the bridge, rich with 30 years of vindicated satisfaction. Peace negotiations? How delightfully predictable. Tom, send them a simple response. Tell them that any negotiations will go through Captain Jake Morrison of the USS Vengeance. Make sure they understand that we're no longer Earth's dirty secret. Rodriguez shook his head in amazement. 27 years of being nobody, and now we're the most famous humans in the galaxy. Famous and feared, Jake corrected, which is exactly how it should be. The galaxy spent decades thinking humanity was weak, that we traded our fangs for diplomacy. Today we reminded them that we never lost our bite. The USS Vengeance continued its journey home, no longer a forgotten prototype, but a legend in the making. The galaxy had learned its lesson about humanity's true nature, and Earth was about to learn the cost of abandoning its own.